Isabel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here. And thank you for that pause and that breath and that prayer before we started. That was really
Mm,
sweet.
Thank you. I started doing that with the podcast because I feel like we are so rushed coming from somewhere else. Often we've never met one another, and then we're jumping on a call, and just being able to ground together to connect and to set an intention and invite in divinity with us. I just feel like it sets the tone for the rest of the conversation. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. Actually, you could have answered any question that could possibly come in our conversation right now with this statement.
That's so true. So tell me, where are you? Are you in California? Where do you live?
Yes, in LA,
Yeah.
California.
Okay, beautiful. That's beautiful. I read a little bit, of course, about your story and your background in preparing, but I would love to hear your story. And maybe you could take us back to younger years when you first were an actress and you had a life prior to the one that you're living today. I just think it'd be really interesting to hear more about that.
Yeah. So my family is mostly in the film industry, music, writing, directing, performing. So I think I was expected to do that. And I was not overtly, but I had a sense that I was probably not good at anything else. I
Mhm.
had that sense that I'm supposed to do that. And it just wasn't my thing. Way before the event of my life unfolded, I just didn't get any fulfillment from it. There were fun parts, but it just wasn't me. So I'm not surprised that life brought me where it brought me. So that was the beginning of my life. But at some point, athletics, sport, physical activity was always something that I enjoyed a lot. And at some point, once I was in LA, coming back, I moved from Montreal to Europe, did mostly acting in Europe, and then moved here for film, thinking that's what I would do. But I was already feeling dissatisfied at that point, didn't really know why, because the message that I'm supposed to act was so deep inscribed inside of me
Mhm.
that I didn't even think I could do something else. But I continued doing athletics on the side. But at some point, I made the shift, and it was a good shift, and I enjoyed it. But I ended up being quite sick in my early 20s, very early 20s. I would look back now and realize that emotions was really the key reason why I felt ill. I think it would be called chronic fatigue syndrome, chondromalacia, that kind of things that people didn't really know, but they would assign names to it. But in the progression of about 2 years, I ended up so exhausted and in such pain that I could barely sort of crawl into my house and in the bed. And I would go from doctors to doctors. Nobody could really tell me what was going on. They just wanted to give me drugs. Most would tell me I'm depressed, and I would say, I am depressed. I'm making no money. I'm borrowing money. I can't pay my rent.
Yeah.
I am depressed. I think it's normal, and I'm scared
Yeah.
because I don't know what's going on. So they wanted to give me antidepressant. That wasn't it. I don't know how I turned around and ended up looking at alternative therapy because it really wasn't part of my growing up. But I ended up in Koreatown and there met these amazing ladies at the market and they pulled my tongue, looked at my eyes, took my pulse. They could tell I didn't have much money. They could tell I was panicked and scared out of my
Mhm.
mind. And they just gave me herbs and roots, adaptogen mushrooms, which I didn't know what they were at the time, just a big bucket of things. And they somehow taught me how to cook it. So I went home with all these things
Wow.
and started cooking. And I always say my place had a yellow tint all over the wall and smelled funky because it was a small place. And that's all I would do all day. And I would end up with these thick liquids that I would ingest. And within 2, 3 months, I started feeling the difference. I look back now, I understand how these elements work on our physiology. So I understand what was happening, beside the fact that they were kind and they listened to me. And there was no assumption of what was and what wasn't. They just were there present with me and kindly offered
Mhm.
me a way out. So that was the beginning of something that I never stopped studying. It was part of my arsenal from then on, because at that point I had become a trainer. I was doing sport rehabilitation, sports psychology, body work, all around the body and the wellness of the body and performance, which I loved. And that became something I brought along. So it became what I offered to my clients. I turned it into a rudimentary shake like. I tried to make it taste good because me, I could do it like shots. There's the survival
Yeah.
instinct. I don't care what it tastes like. I'm downing it because it's working. Exactly. But with people, I was trying to make it taste good. So it became my first understanding plants and understanding food and its power and its
Mhm.
importance, because I didn't know why it worked, but it definitely worked. So I couldn't prove
Mhm.
it. I couldn't teach it. I didn't go to school, but I used it all the time and I read about it and tested it on so many clients, and nobody told me they didn't feel anything from it. It was also very pure. It was really potent and raw and just cooked right there in my place. And then life went on, and then I had a car crash. And it took me about
Mm.
2 years to rehabilitate from that. I was told I was going to limp for the rest of my life. I went from rehab to rehab, and I realized that even though the intents are good intent to try to help me, the system wasn't set up to really get me back on my feet. And there was no way at that age, again in my mid 20s, I was going to limp for the rest of my life. So, again, lots of personal research, trials and error, testing things on myself worked. People saw that it worked. So, got more work from people that were now less performer and athletics, but more in pain, chronic pain, and unable to function. So, started helping people with that. So I had a great array of different kind of individual already. And already I could tell that talking was so important. So showing up and sitting and
Yeah.
being there with them, which is the thing I didn't get when I was in pain. And even when I was rehabilitating myself, nobody sat and just allowed me to feel what I needed to feel. So that was number two, and trying to go through it. And then the third big event was when I gave birth to my boy, birth at home, but I ended up not really being able to walk for about 10 years. And this is when guidance came down. This is when my life went a 180 degree. I was like 125, quite strong, to 103, weak and lost, and my identity disappeared. Like I couldn't do anything, and I just gave birth to a boy, and I thought I was going to be this fun hiking mother's go get it, and I ended up being on the floor most of the time in the basement. And this is where I call guidance. This wise aspect of ourselves came through quite strongly, and that was another new addition to my life, an aspect of who we are that I'd never really indulged and paid attention to. It was there. Again, looking back, you can see it here and there, peppered throughout our lives. But now it was my lifeline. It was really what nourished my soul. And then soul became something powerful and very present
Mm.
in my day to day. And I think because I was in pain for almost 10 years nonstop, I think it's what somehow helped me not get depressed. I had moments, but I didn't fall in a deep abyss. It was always there supporting me and somehow teaching me. I couldn't tell you how really, but I was taught
Yeah.
a lot. And I can tell
Mm.
you that, so I gave birth to my boy at 40. I'm 50, I'll be 58 very soon. I can tell you that it took me all that time to actually process and integrate, and I'm still integrating. And I feel that I'm just starting to really being able to really apply on a day to day basis, not only my whole life, but that precious 17 years, really. That was a
Wow.
lot. And I realize how important it is to take the time to apply the learning. So
Wow.
this is what led me to what I do now, which is helping people do exactly that with healing work, energy work, with presence and just being with them. I didn't go to school for that. I just made a million mistakes, was challenged, found all the wrong way to go about it, but really I amassed tons of information of what not to do, which I'm still doing. I'm still doing some of the not to do and learning.
Yeah.
I'm a better student. So I use all that I've been through because I'm very comfortable with physical and emotional pain. And I'm very aware of what I need. So eager, joyfully allowing myself to do something where that is part of what people need so I can offer it. And then I have something called the Harmonic egg, which is this incredible device that we may speak about, which is also energy work with light and sound, which is conducive to all that, an amazing tool. So that's a little bit my trajectory.
Wow. I want to unpack a lot that you shared. What's so interesting when I try to put myself in your shoes as a young 20 something year old in acting, moving to California, and when you said that you were feeling depressed, for now, do you recognize that was your soul, your spirit, your body, everything telling you this is not your path and you were ignoring it? Do you feel like the symptoms were coming from an inner knowing that you just hadn't either accepted or maybe processed yet?
Yes, it's weird. I'm full of contradiction in the way I see things now. So I would say
Yeah.
yes. And I think many of us understand that. And I think it's part of what we do. So is it wrong? Is it not listening? Or is it actually what we do in order to amass information, knowing? So, yes, I didn't listen. Yes, I was taught early on that acting is what I'll do. And yet it was
Mhm.
perfect. I don't know if it's wrong, but
Oh,
it
yeah.
happened.
It doesn't have to be a regret, but it's interesting, like, being able to only when we look back, are we able sometimes to see things through a different lens. And the other thing that I think is so amazing with your story is just this level of perseverance and self-reliance on finding answers when you weren't getting them through the traditional means.
Yeah,
It's
I
hard
agree with
to.
that. It's hard not
Yeah.
to. It's easy to give up.
Yeah, I was going to say too. And sometimes as a young person, I don't know if I would have had the agency and to be the advocate that you were for yourself and thinking about going to Koreatown and finding some non traditional methods and then also working on your own rehabilitation. But I love that when you said you knew that you just weren't going to live with the limp the rest of your life. So was it a decision that you made? And like, did it start with a decision like this isn't going to be what my life is going to be, even if this is what the doctors are telling me?
There's several things when you talk, there's several things I'm thinking about. One of them is as I'm working with people throughout my life, I'm constantly amazed. We're all quite amazing. We most of the time not give up
Yeah.
against all odds. I don't know why. That's a bit of a mystery. Life pulls you, life needing to live
Yeah.
pulls you because I would not think that of myself. And I look back at so many events, all the way to very recently. I would not describe myself as that. I describe
Mhm.
myself more as running away from, not toward. Now I'm
Mm.
starting to do that. But for the longest time, it
Yeah.
was the opposite. But I'm watching people all day when I do my work. I only see incredible stories, even when it doesn't look incredible from the outside. When you go
Yeah.
within the individual's life, how they were living it, it's incredible what they go through and how they come out of it. It's always amazing. But yes, absolutely, the whole time, it was my curriculum. It wasn't
Yeah.
school per se, even though I did seminar and I did reach out to teachers and get some degrees.
Mhm.
Life was really the school, and life carried me. I feel like most of my life was really just following through. Some people, it's like they're born knowing exactly what they wanna be, what they wanna do, and they actually do it, which I find that incredible. I was not. Once I realized that I was not gonna act, which is all I was being told, it was a little wild, free floating, and thank
Mhm.
God sport was a thing that I really loved, but life brought it to me. And the same way that I ended up doing a lot
Yeah.
of active rehabilitation, it was brought to me through my experience and people looking around and asking me questions. I ended up making a shake for a fitness platform. That was because of what I went through, and I didn't know that it would end up being something important that I would create or co-create. I didn't know. Most of it I didn't know, and most of it I stumbled upon. At least it appears that way. So I don't know if I made a decision or if life and wanting to live just, what's the word, like being tempted, just come on over here, and just
Yeah.
following this over here, this little voice, and you just follow. And I still do. I still
Yeah.
didn't plan on doing what I'm doing now. I just landed there. So I feel very much that
Yeah.
I'm guided, and I'm just starting to trust that. So it's funny, right? You look back and you're like, I
Mm.
survived it all. It all worked out. And I think that being okay with uncertainty and not knowing is a big deal. It's a big deal. I've been told that. A lot of people tell you that. But the goal is to integrate that in your life and be able to live it. The whole point is to live it. And I think we listen to a lot of stuff and we get a little lost in information as opposed to listening to that voice and holding on to a few things and applying them diligently in your life,
Oh,
and see what unfolds from there.
absolutely. It's so fascinating sometimes even looking out. When we're experiencing these things, it's a much different experience. We don't necessarily have the same level, but it's the embodiment of these beliefs that is
Yes.
sometimes hard. We can understand it intellectually, and especially if it's not you who's living through it, some of the
Yeah.
difficult challenges. But when you're in it and being able to embody it, that's the hard part. And so I'm curious, when you talked about you had these years where you had shifted, you were healthy, you were focusing in on training clients, you created Shakeology, right? You're working
Yes.
with a lot of amazing people and providing some benefits to them through your own learnings. And then again, the incident happened with when you were delivering. And so
Yeah.
once again, it's like one of those snow globe moments where life shakes you up and suddenly there's a new lesson to learn. I can't imagine what everything that you must have been feeling in that
Yeah.
moment. So, what was that like when you're there? You're it's supposed to be one of the happiest days in your life, right? Giving birth to your son, and suddenly you couldn't walk. You said, like, you just
Yes.
couldn't
Well,
walk.
it didn't happen right away. It took, I think, 3 months or so where I was living what I thought I'd be living. I'd go hiking with my son in
Yeah,
the stroller and trying every day to go higher and faster. So it happened slowly. Somehow I was starting to feel pain. Things were not quite right. And then it was sudden. And then something happened in the pelvic floor. And then I couldn't walk. Again, looking back, I think I had built an exterior of strength and control when I was really scared and insecure and lost inside
mm,
emotionally. And I think that event me inside out. So I lost all that I had identified to, and I was left with
yeah,
just the inside, with my fear, my
mm,
insecurity, what I felt, my body. I did not even realize that because I had already had the car crash that had taught me a lot. And so exercising was vital in terms of I need to be able to be physically present in the world and able in the world. So
yeah,
vanity was not really that present because of that event, gratefully so, but it was there. And I felt that as well. The way I identified to a strong, powerful body was gone. My attractiveness, what I thought was attractive, was gone. And my identification to being what is a good mother, gone. a
Mm.
good wife, what I'm supposed to be able to put out as a wife, gone. Everything was gone. And I just sat with all that I had not dealt with. So I
Wow.
think they call it the shadow work. A lot of shadow work was done. But again, I didn't go willfully toward it. It came to
Right.
me. So that's
Yeah.
why I feel like I don't know if I'm courageous or there's no more choices once you're in it. It was hours and hours a day, really, for years of being confronted with all the things I didn't want to confront. And again, that amazing presence of wisdom that showed up at the same time. And now I view that as an aspect of who we are. I was
Right.
saying on another podcast that it's almost like we function with only half of our bodies or just one arm, and we dismiss the usefulness of the other arm. That's what
Yeah.
soul, spirit, this other dimension that we are now, thankfully so, looking and talking about, looking into and talking about. I had
Yeah.
never really dived into any of that. And I think I was discovering that other arm was an aspect of who I am. And it was wise and it was consoling me, cajoling me, and nourishing me through it all, and giving me tidbits of information that just popped into my beingness. It's not like I heard a voice, but there was information there, and there was a lot of inner work. That's what happened. And also, things would happen physically, movement would be spontaneous. So, a lot of
Mm.
that happens as well. And I learned, and now there's modalities that actually somatic work and different kind of work where you go on the floor and you allow
Yeah.
your body to move and unwind. That is what was happening, but I didn't know. I'd never seen that. And
Wow.
in the unwinding, information would come in, letting go of that which is not useful, because the body is part of your intelligence that holds on to information, emotions, events, and unwinding was happening. And that which is good information would come in, and I would not have been able to tell you that what was going on, but that is what was going on for 10 years. And so I slowly got better, was guided toward people, finding an individual that really helped me get back on my feet. But my life was changed forever. The way I raised my child was changed forever. What was true or not true for me, hierarchy of importance changed. I love physical activity and I still participate in it more than ever, how precious it is to be able to have a body that functions.
Yeah.
But the body is very different to me now. It's the fascia, it's the bone, the muscle, but it's also the energetics that are woven within my fabric, like God, divinity, call it
Yeah.
whatever you want. So
Yeah.
then added this other dimension of life, of intelligence, of knowing, and that slowly got integrated in the years after that and to this day. And that also is something that you process, and I think age helps. You're at a different stage in your life. Even if you can stop aging in all the multitude of ways that we do it nowadays, where you can look 30 forever, hopefully your soul and your bigness is 50, 60, 70, 80, and
Yeah.
all that information and this other dimension becomes much more what you identify, for the lack of a better word. You embrace that, and it participates in life in a much more real way. And I think the fourth branch of what came along in my life that made it that I couldn't go back to just doing what I was doing, that I don't want to say graduated as if I had not graduated if I went back to what I was doing. But for me, I couldn't. Too much had changed me. And I was very alone in it. I didn't really reach out to people. I was very alone. And yet I was never alone. That
Yeah.
aspect of me was on board now and has been on board ever since. So that I don't fall to the abyss, to the ground the way I used to. And that's something that you cultivate. You cultivate the relationship with yourself through all these aspects. And then you understand more that it's important to cultivate that with others as well, because they are made of the same stuff, like that energetic aspect, that amazing, loving, wise aspect of yourself exists in them, even if you don't see it. And you need to honor that because we all have that. So it just changes, it just angled everything. And I think many of us are moving through versions of that right now. I see it all the time. People that show up to my work and or to authenticity, and people I didn't expect, or people that I have known peripherally for a while that now are showing up asking these questions and having had their own experiences that made them curious and wanting to peek across the veil.
Yeah, it's interesting. So for me, it sounds like you had your encounter with the Holy Spirit, right? And we can use whatever language it feels
Yes.
comfortable. It's this ever presence that is with us always, our guide, our comforter, our counselor. And when you have those encounters, you move beyond the physical. We are moving beyond the physical, and suddenly you're looking at yourself and everyone else in a much different lens. So when you say you couldn't go back to what you were doing before, of course not, because you
Yeah.
are experiencing yourself and life through a
Yes.
different lens than before. So it's like when you see that, then you see the divinity in other people when you're talking to them. It's not just about their physical body. It's, of course, now suddenly you're talking to them about their energy and everything else that we're made of and their divinity. So tell me a little bit more about the way that you work with clients today, maybe some of the services and even that product that you mentioned before.
Yeah, that's exactly, thank you. That's a perfect segue because I was about to say, often I don't talk about it. Often
Mhm.
I don't talk about it. It's just the way you are with someone, where
Yeah.
the same way that you did the prayer. So some people
Yeah.
would do the prayer, right? And it's just the doing of the prayer. It's a conditioning. You can do the prayer, and in that instant, as soon as you pause and we took a breath and we invited spirit, it
Yeah.
is real. It's there.
Yeah.
And we didn't need to talk about it. It is now present. You invited
Yeah.
it because we have
Mhm.
to invite it. We have to want it. It honors
Yeah.
your freedom of
Mhm.
choice. And not that it's not there. It's just, it's like a book, a lovely book, an important book that could be sitting on your desk forever. It's there and you know how to read, but you don't read it. And then suddenly you do, and it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
So often I don't talk about this at all. There's a client of mine that I adore. It started in a way that made me laugh every single time. She would walk in, barely acknowledge me or look around, go straight into the harmonic egg. She wouldn't want to talk about focusing on anything specific and go sit. And I would
Yeah.
set her up, walk away. She would do a session. She would thank me and she would walk away, drive away. And
Oh my gosh.
every time, like I absolutely loved her. She cracked me up. But at some point, there was an opening and we started talking. And it was perfect. It was beautiful. And she's one of my favorite in a way that, not that she's my favorite because she's so special, but there's a real trust and a sense of safety that now has built where we can communicate and we feel safe
Yeah.
with each other, where the healing begins. That aspect is very real. The place is in the middle of nature on a mountain, because that's also, nature is very present in that space. It's all around us. There's constant sounds of birds, and the wind is very present, and the green and the trees, everything is almost like trembling. It's so present. I don't know how to explain it. It has a vitality that is palpable all around us. And so it's an element of what we do there. But I consciously wanted that because I knew
Mhm.
it would co-create with me a space where people could feel safe and nurtured. That's beyond me. So when people come to answer your question, everybody's so different, which is
Yeah.
amazing. And I don't have a technique except that I believe in communication, learning to be honest with yourself. It's called authenticity. Authenticity has become a thing that people mention, but it really
Yeah.
is being truthful. It's being honest. It's not bullshitting yourself and not bullshitting others. We all talk about spirituality and things, but really, that cannot happen if you haven't dealt with the unspoken and the hidden and the secrets. It
Mhm.
just can't. So, spirituality is really your day to day life. So, we make it out there, but it's in here and it's present
Mm.
in your every day, every moment, how you feel and think and deal with each other and with yourself. So, I don't have a technique except that's over and over again my ability to hear myself, to differentiate fear from wisdom,
Mm.
from being kind and compassionate and what that is. I was not able to give it until I started receiving it and activating it in my life. And that's God and that's spirituality. And that means all the uncomfortable stuff, all the stuff you
Yeah.
don't want to deal with. So people come right for energy healing and for the egg, which is light and sound, basically vibration, energy.
Oh,
But
amazing.
it starts with sitting down, hopefully having a space where as soon as they sit down, they can feel safe and they can start taking pause and breath and acknowledging the anxiety and the deep fears that are driving them in ways that are unspoken all the time. And we all have
Yeah.
them. And there's young and there's amazing masters. We're not talking about anything that has not been talked about for thousands of years, but we all show up in our own way to access that space so you can get honest with yourself. And I think one of the important things that I facilitate is the freedom to feel. Just feel what's uncomfortable, what
Yeah.
hurts, and not having to find an answer and fix it at all. And men need that as well. It's not just
Oh,
women,
for sure.
right? That they need it. And to be accessible to not doing anything, pausing and feeling. And if that means that for 6 months you don't speak to me really, and you don't pause because you have the freedom not to pause in order to at some point decide to pause and feel, so be it. And so that's what
Mm.
we do. And then we utilize the harmonic egg. It's a modality that will then bring you in a great sense of like a deep meditation. It really reset your central nervous system. And
Yeah.
I think that good energy healing does that as well. The first thing you should feel
Mhm.
is just this letting go, and sinking, where the egg and when I facilitate the healing work, it's really a conversation with you and the universe and allowing what you know needs to be allowed and the body participate in that. Because now, if the body is in a parasympathetic place, meaning rest, digest, being safe, now the body is not busy fighting imaginary monsters. Now the body can facilitate healing as well. And it's a
Yeah.
conversation with all these elements that we are, that is all about you being okay with the imperfection, okay with the pain, the surrendering of not being enough, the other not being
Mhm.
enough. We are in a world where we're constantly saying, what's next? Who's better? I can find better. We need to pause
Mm.
and ask, why is it that I'm constantly looking for new, better, not what I am, not what I have? And so it's a very
Yeah.
simple science.
It's amazing because we haven't normalized the fact that our body knows how to heal.
Yeah,
And when we are able to return back to the state of the parasympathetic nervous system, back to a place of rest and digest, back to homeostasis, our body is incredible. It is
yeah,
so incredible. And
yeah,
it's able to provide healing. And we have evidence of spontaneous healing and
Yes.
remission and miracles and all kinds of things. And yet, we run around, as you
Yes.
said, fighting imaginary gremlins and monsters and all these things, and we would rather take a pill or just assume that's natural and that's normal. And so we're going to do, instead of coming back to a place of regulation. And so it is nice to see that I teach somatic breath work. And for me,
Oh
breath work is
gosh.
amazing. I have so
Beautiful.
many friends who are in the energetic, and being able to just bring people back to a state of their natural state and reminding them this is what it feels like to be resting. Because we have two speeds sometimes, which is sleep, which is not great, or running 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And we have to remind ourselves, one, give yourself permission to rest, give yourself permission to take care of your body, listen to those signals, come back to a place, and work with people like you when we need the support, when we don't know how to do it on our own, when we need some extra support. I wish I was in California so I could come to and experience your harmonic egg. That sounds amazing.
It is. It really is. It's so simple and so powerful. It's a great tool,
Yeah.
especially when someone is very shut down and when opening up or
Yeah.
being with another human being is highly uncomfortable and scary. Because
Mhm.
for most, it's scary. And so the egg, you're alone. It's literally an egg with sacred geometry where you are in a chair that's extremely comfortable that reclines to zero gravity, which is very comfortable and soothing for the
Oh,
body. And then there's light above and below that you pick the settings because different light will connect with different aspects of your body. Green is the heart chakra. So some lights will be
mm,
helpful for the liver, kidney, gallbladder. Doing what you do for a living, you know exactly what I'm talking about because what you do is amazing.
yeah,
And then there's a music that's been designed with the intent of healing. So the music, it's an art and it's a science. It's used all around the world. Light and sound has already been used all around the
yeah,
world and more and more. It's the presence of that type of modality
yeah,
is really growing in the world, which is fantastic. So it's a very simple but very high quality sound system and that because of the shape of the egg, the vibration of sound and the vibration of light, which we are very acquainted to now through quantum physics, is moving around 365-degree through and through
yep,
your entire system. And you sit there for 40 minutes, and then you have
wow,
10 minutes of integration, and nobody comes out of there not in their parasympathetic central nervous system. Even people that will come out and say, nothing much happened. I can see it. I can see that the breath flows more easily. It's that one or two breath
yeah,
of pausing that
yeah,
automatically does it.
yeah,
Automatically. So it's an incredible tool that allows that intimacy because you're alone with yourself, getting acquainted with being alone with yourself. Often emotions will move through you or you'll feel tingling. All sorts of things can happen in there. And it's accumulative, the same way that you can drink water on a Monday and say, okay, that's it. I'm hydrated for the week. You got to drink water on a
right,
regular basis. So it's
yeah,
cumulative so that it becomes your default, so that the fight or flight is not your default. And it teaches you to, without teaching you, but just by being in there on a regular basis, your default setting is more responsive as opposed to
mm,
reactive. So you can see
yeah,
that it starts leaking into your day-to-day life. So it's an incredible tool. Very often people will have the egg sessions and then you are at a very different level when you start talking to each other. So I'm soaking in nature
oh, yeah,
as they're in the egg. And then the conversations, if there's a need for conversations, are very healing. And it's incredible because then the human being vibrates in a different place, which then hits me in a different way, which then I hit the individual in a different manner. And the depth continues and continues. And you can see it by the ability to look at each other. which creates all
Mhm.
sorts of chemical reactions. Sometimes I'll take a certain type of breath because I realize they needed to take that breath. I wasn't taught that. That's just the wisdom of our bodies. And that's when the conversation becomes nonlinear in a way where words come out that you didn't choose to say that, and they're receptive. So the egg made them receptive. So all of these things are all about the ability to be okay with oneself, know thyself, the ability to not judge yourself, shame, guilt, regrets, all these things that are sitting in you that are literally veiling yourself. So, very often people will
Mhm.
have a subtle but powerful experience where they see better. Everything is sparkly, everything
Mm.
is brighter. And another podcast that leads me to something I had mentioned with that individual where you learn to appreciate life in a different way. It's one thing to say, let go, appreciate. It's another thing, all that needs to happen in order to, I gotta let go. But the let go is happening. The same way that I was saying, my life brought me, I feel like I made no decisions. I was brought to different modalities. My life changed because my life's changed. It's like my soul was in charge. I wasn't. And so allowing that aspect creates an ability to savor life, to savor little moments in such a better way. You really absorb the beauty of these little moments. So you don't need the highs of the big moments. You don't need the big thing and the big trip. They're great. They're wonderful. You'll appreciate it even better. But it's not a need in order to feel good because
Yeah.
slowly you're unveiling yourself of all these heavy emotions and thought processes that you look around, everything is better and it feels better, and a look and a smile and a word, all these things we talk about, you don't get there through mental processes. You have to really drop into your body and learning, helping each other to drop these emotions. Like I said, shame and guilt are two big one. I'm not good enough. They're not good enough. That's huge. There's very specific big theme in a human beings are the same across the board. And those are
Yeah.
definitely big. Not enough. I'm not good enough. Therefore, you'll never be good enough. And shame and guilt, regrets, they interfere with your ability to be happy, to be at peace. And that's
Mm.
what this
Mm.
center is about that. I don't have a method, but I know that these elements congeal together to create a space where it can happen.
I hope I find myself out by you at some point so I can experience your magic. We could get together. If folks want to work with you, what is the best way that they can find you? Where should we direct them to?
The website is thebestwayless.com, and I have authenticitystressless.com on Facebook and on Instagram. But the website is where you can email me and you can also read about all that stuff and see if it jives with you.
It sounds heavenly. And I ask everyone a final question, which is what does it mean to you to live the width of your life?
The width of my life. It's surrendering. It's surrendering to
Mm.
what is. It's so cliche, right? But it's so true. And so the width of my life is what we've talked about, really. Literally, that's what we've been talking about. So the surrendering to all that I am, the ability to allow it to coexist. So the hidden part, the not accepted part, the not good enough part, surrendering that it is all part of what we are. It's part of what I am, and it's okay. And people tend to think that if you do that, you don't do anything, you have no drive. They tend to think you're just like doing nothing. You become, I'm doing nothing. It's not true. It allows vitality and a joyful drive to experience the life itself. It's like the wind has space to come in and blow through you. And it allows the ability to really live the width of your life. You're not stuck in the narrowness of these detrimental energies that are there to teach you. And if you allow them to teach you, then they free you. And then
Mhm.
hopefully you don't need to reach out to these emotions to continue learning. Hopefully you learn to live well from a different place each time. So each time you let go of these energies and these emotions that are not feeling good and you learn what you need to learn from it each time, then the next time you can learn from a place of well-being instead. And I think that's the goal, to the lessons could be learned differently from a better place. So if I allow all of me to exist and all of you to exist, then you're good enough, then I'm good enough, then life is good enough, and I can be, create, and enjoy peace.
That's beautiful. I love it so much. Isabel, I just want to recognize and honor you for being the bright light that you are in this world and just commend you for sharing your story of everything that you've gone through. I know that it's so inspiring to me, and you've just demonstrated over and over again how you allowed yourself to surrender to what is and use it then in service to others, which is just beautiful. And
And
it's
we can
something we
all
should,
do that.
and we can
Yes,
all do it.
yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for spending
Thank
time with
you.
me today. You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much for having me.